Oh, so that's going to be a tough one to beat. Sao Paulo, Brazil. Love it. All right. All right. So we're kind of stabilizing here at about 47. So Columbia, South Carolina. Love it. Love it. Love it. Go Cox. Happy to have everybody. Let's go ahead and get rolling. I want to make sure we make the most use of everybody's time. Thanks again for joining us during your lunch hour here today. Happy to see everybody virtually. Let's keep the chat a lively place as we go. I think this is going to be a lot of fun today as we go through. The overall theme you're going to see today is we're going to basically do a little bit of a tour of our state to highlight where will 2023 take you, right? So we're going to let some people highlight some passion projects that they've put together using Tableau and data analysis skills to demo the tool and kind of look to inspire you of some use cases that may have been beyond the scope of what you'd considered before. So again, I'm Jeremy Poole. I represent our Charlotte user group. If we haven't met, happy to have some new faces, some new folks represented. I represent our Charlotte TUG collaboratively with Rashid, William, Darrell, and Natalie, who I don't think is on the call today. We're happy to join for another year. Love doing this. But let's get into some intros for our presenters. The first presenter today is going to be William Aubrey. William is the longtime lead of our local Charlotte user group. He kickstarted this thing, brought this thing back from the dead back in 2014 or 2015. I honestly can't remember at this point because we've been doing this so long. William is passionate about a number of things. He's a data and analytics consultant by day. He's a business plan developer by night. He's trying to take over the world one step at a time. Loves to ride his motorcycle. Great person to speak to in the data and analytics space. William's going to tell you a little bit about finding land in the Carolinas today. It's a passion project for him. He's passionate about getting away from the city, so he's going to tell you how he approached that using a data-informed approach. All right. So our next presenter, we'll have someone else introduce. Or are we jumping straight into William's presentation? I actually did not catch that.
I think we can jump in and we'll introduce everybody as they.
Got it. Okay, awesome. Let's do it that way. All right, William, you're on, buddy.
All right. Welcome, everyone. 2023 Virtual Carolinas TUG. I'm going to share my screen here. And this presentation, as Jeremy said, is about finding land in the Carolinas. So even before we talk about the Carolinas, it's, there's a lot of places in the world and we have a lot of options these days as remote employees. Many of us are remote employees. So sometimes the first question is where don't you want to be? So if you can figure that out and you do settle on North Carolina, the rest of this will help you. The first thing to know about the Carolinas is that there are three distinct geographical regions: the mountains, the Piedmont, and the coast. And there's no better way to discover than actually getting out there and seeing it for yourself. So gratuitous motorcycle shot here. For me, the best way to discover things about the region that you're in is to buy a motorcycle. So not for everybody, but having the ability to have a machine that gets you out there and it doesn't take a lot of gas mileage, you can see quite a bit of stuff. For me, this is my Google timeline history. And you can see probably one of the things I'm most proud of in life is just everything that I've been able to see by traveling 100,000 miles on motorcycles over the last 15 years. Each of these dots represent a destination that a person spends, 10, 15 minutes. So as a data source, this is the first one that we're going to talk about, Google Timeline. As a data source, this is a really valuable resource. You put this Google Maps on your phone. You can turn on you can turn on a GPS tracking app, and that will give you very precise routing. This chart, this one, for example, is a trip that I took down to Charleston one day. It was a 500-mile day. Another long trip was another about 500 miles up into Virginia. And the Google timeline really, it just helps you record your tracks, record where you've been, and the data itself you can export. So when you go to a specific day, you can export this data KML, and the KMLs, those can be imported directly into Tableau. You can also take these KMLs and you can import them into the Google My Maps application. So taking a step back, this discussion is a lot about the data sources that you can use to discover the Carolinas, to discover land, and how these different data sources help you to make those decisions about where you want to be. So in Google My Maps, when you go to your places, go to Maps, and you're able to take these different KML files, you can import them all together into a single map. And this is just a good resource for you as you're gathering information about different places. You know, this particular map is one I built over the years of some favorite places that I've been to, different routes, different rides, and sort of these blue and red lines represent kind of the outer periphery of the familiarity I have with the Carolinas. So Google Maps is one really good resource. The KML files can be imported directly into Tableau. So speaking of Tableau, of all the slides I've got today, 3 of these slides actually speak directly to Tableau. The rest of them are about data sources. This is a visualization that I made with all of that KML data and exported out of Google Maps, out of the timeline. This was my 2021 Iron Viz submission. So available on my Tableau public profile. A lot of real interesting things you can do with that KML data. The next slide, this is probably the coolest thing I have to share. It is just a visualization of all those routes that I did in a single day, and they're animated using that paging function inside of the timeline. So you're not always constrained to Tableau when you do creative things with data. You can do a lot of interesting, different, cool things. So Google Timeline, map data, route data, all real interesting. Helps you to discover what's out there so you can see it for yourself. When you do that discovery and you find kind of the place that you want to be, you ask yourself what things are important to you. And for me personally, these are the things that are important to me. I want to be able to have a good signal. I want good internet speed. I want the skies to be dark. I haven't seen a dark sky in a very long time, so I want to see dark skies. And new motorcycling roads, you know, you saw the maps a second ago, been all over the Carolinas. I've kind of worn out everything within 50 miles. So I'm looking forward to new motorcycling roads. And finally, cooler summers. So the search for data to support these ends are what we're going to cover next. First off, most cell phone providers, you're going to be able to find a coverage map on their website. And for me, I use Google Fi. They've got 4G and 5G map here, and I'm right up there in that light green area. So you know what you're getting into. You're wherever you go. If 5G is important to you, you know, for me, it's not as important because I'm online all the time anyway. So good signal for sure, but really good internet is the most important. So for North Carolina, we have a great resource called NC1 Map. You can go out there to this site. You can look at the fixed broadband service area. So when you find a location that you're interested in, you can go to the map and you can look for the address, and you'll be able to discover exactly what carriers are out there, what companies. And in this spot, in Ashe County and in Allegheny County, I think after the 2008 mortgage crisis, they had some funding available, and they spent that funding in order to get fiber optic cable to every house in those 2 counties. So those counties have been fully fiber optic for, you know, over 10 years. Moving on, dark skies. So here is a light pollution map, and this is another interesting data source that you can leverage. This is a light pollution map, and here at a zoomed in level, you think, okay, well, Charlotte for sure is got a lot of light pollution and maybe right outside of town, but really right outside of town is still very brown. You have to actually go out quite a distance to be before you get a fully dark sky. And this is something that I'm looking forward to, this spot that I found up in Allegheny County. Of course, for me, my biggest passion is motorcycling and seeing everything. So there's a couple of interesting resources. If you love road trips and if you love getting out on the road and, you know, exploring by motorcycle or by car, these are a couple of interesting sites. The first is motorcycleroads.com. When you go out there, you can search for certain routes or counties or locations, North Carolina. When you open up the map, you can see that on this particular site, Charlotte here is just kind of on the edge of some of the really most interesting motorcycle roads in the Carolinas. There's another site though called rever.co, which is specifically for motorcycling. And when you look at they have a national map, and here you can see that there's a lot of stuff out west. There's something here in the middle for the Ozarks, but really the Appalachian Mountains are where you get some of the best roads in the United States. So Charlotte is just kind of on the edge here. So for me, one of the biggest things about moving up into Allegheny County is getting 2 hours closer to all these really beautiful mountain roads, and getting closer to Kentucky, West Virginia, to be able to explore what's out there. Now, the last and super important criteria to me is climate change is real. Stuff's getting hotter, and every summer I feel a little bit trapped inside my house from all the heat. And so getting up at higher in elevation is really important to me. So a couple of screenshots from the last couple of years, in the middle of summer, whenever it's really hot, you look at a radar map. And as a data source, again, the weather maps are a great resource. This summer when it's 90, 95 degrees, log into weather.com or Weather Underground or any one of these and look to see where that cooler weather is. And for us in the Southeast, it's the Appalachian Mountains. Down in the Cherokee, Murphy area, all the way up into Virginia and West Virginia. Every summer, I look at these maps in an envious way of our neighbors who live in the high country. So, weather map, and of course, weather data. There's tons of weather data resources if you want to do some research. And that actually brings us to our third and final Tableau visualization that's in this deck. This is one that I'm super excited about. Arabello's Gap is the area where I've got some land now, and on the average temperatures all between in the summer rarely gets above 80. So I'm very excited about that. Of course, when we get back to the main question, how do you find land? You can do all the discovering. You can spend 100,000 miles running all over the Carolinas. Occasionally you'll see a for sale by owner sign. You might find something. I've researched many of those over the years, pulled over and called a number and asked people about land. But I think the biggest payoff that you're going to find if you really are interested in finding land somewhere is to be obsessive compulsive about checking realtor.com, Zillow.com on a daily basis. Deals come up, people decide to sell the land, and it goes away really quickly. So being OCD about going to realtor.com and keeping your filters out there and searching for what comes up, land deals, that's probably going to be your best bet of actually finding something. Of course, the time that you spend to do the exploration, it'll be more meaningful to you when you see something come up. You'll already know if it's worth going to research. Once you find that piece of land that you really want to dig into deep, there's no better resource than every county's geographical information system, the GIS. So you don't need to know what website. You just go to Google, type, Union County, North Carolina GIS, and it'll take you to a link for the GIS system. If you've never used the GIS systems, they're different, but they've got a lot of the similar things. There's usually a layers information, so you can pick layers. You can pick contours to see what the elevation looks like, what the topography looks like. If you're buying land in the mountains or you're looking for land in the mountains, you need to be very cautious about the topography. Many times I've gotten excited about a piece of land only to find out that the average slope is 45 degrees, or a very steep slope, and that's very difficult to build, very expensive to build on. So the first thing that you want to do is find that land, look at the topography, and see if it seems feasible to you to build on it. Lots of other really good resources on these GIS sites to think about. There's the information card, which will get you to information about the deed. You might find some interesting documents like previous surveys or just the history of the land. That can also be very interesting. If I haven't mentioned yet, this is the actual piece of land that it took me about 10 months to close the deal on this. This is a piece of land that really has been in the same family for about 100 years, or since the inception of the county, Allegheny County. So I'm the first person outside of that family to own this piece of land in this estate. So very excited about that. Other really good tools, of course, is the satellite imagery that's on the GIS site. So you want to use that to see of course, many times before I've seen a really good deal on realtor.com, looked at it on satellite, and then discovered, okay, well, there's 7 chicken houses right next door. So a big agricultural development like that is going to create some kind of nuisance odors and things. So the satellite imagery is really important whenever you want to think about this. Of course, lots of tools for measuring and drawing on the land as well. So you got that. And very important is your soil. You want to be conscious of what soil types. So in order to discover things about the soil types, you want to think about this website called Web Soil Survey. When you go out to this site, it's part of the USDA. You target the location that you're interested in learning about, and you can find out the coded terms for the different soil types that will educate you as far as different properties of the soil, including drainage, whether it's good to build a septic tank drainage field. That's really critical if you want to just build a traditional septic tank and drainage field. And of course, other information like frost action, frost-free days, and whether the soil is acidic and causing corrosion of concrete and steel. And the pH is something you can find out on this site. So for example, this site that I have, this property, it has a pH of 5.3. And when I watch this YouTube video, 5.3 is a little bit less acidic than black coffee. So that's an interesting fact about it. The final data source that I used in my search, and it probably really didn't contribute to the search itself as much as just what's something that's very interesting, is a map of indigenous cultures around the world. So this particular property has a history of 5 different indigenous cultures having lived there. So I'm interested, it'd be very interesting to see what happens when we begin excavating a driveway and things there. So not necessarily data, but again, if you're looking at mountain land, topography is really important. So a tool called SketchUp is something that I've used to basically draw out the topography by exporting that data from the GIS site and then looking at it and drawing it in a 3D model on SketchUp. So this is something that you could use to begin your planning, to begin dreaming about the land and drawing out what sort of vision you might have for what you would build and how you would develop that land. Lots of resources in today's discussion today, lots of links. This presentation will be provided. Here's all the things that we looked at. If you ever want to talk land, or if you're ever interested having a chat about it, feel free to reach out to me. Glad to have a discussion. Thanks so much for letting me share. I'm going to kick it back over to Jeremy and Dare for the next introduction.
All right. Well, thank you very much for all of that great information. Next up, we have Rashid. Rashid Minot is a Tableau lead solution engineer. He's a former Tableau user group ambassador and the 2020 Tableau Battle of the Banks Viz Games champion. He's very passionate about visual design, has nearly 10 years of experience in business intelligence, and has developed over 100 data visualizations for various banks and financial institutions. And he's going to be talking to us today about the top places to stop on the Charlotte light rail.
All right, thanks, Dare. Give me a second. I'm going to try to share screens. Hopefully you guys will be able to see my screen. So Dare, I can see you. Give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen. Or William, I can see you guys. Okay, all right, so we look good. Hi, everyone. I'm Rashid Minot. Thanks, Dare, for the introduction. Today, I'm going to talk to you about a little bit of stuff that I've done with mapping in Tableau. Kind of like William, I mean, when we talked about this session, we kind of all going to, take a slice of the Carolinas from this mapping perspective. I'm a little bit different. I kind of, I'm going to show you what I mean in a second. I'm a huge fan of Tableau Public, number one, and I'm actually a fan of doing image mapping in Tableau. Something I kind of just enjoy doing because it's kind of from a creative perspective, kind of makes you kind of test your limits. And I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not original. People think I'm creative. I'm not creative. I just learned how to take things other people have done and try to put my own spin on it. So this is something I did a while ago. I think sometime last year. I'm showing you a website. This is Charlotte's Got a Lot. It's kind of like, kind of like a Charlotte, a creative type website, things of that nature. And a lady named Kristen Moore wrote this article, The Top Places to Stop on the Charlotte Light Rail. Kind of goes through all of the stops on the Charlotte Light Rail and kind of what's, to do around those stops, where to eat, where to shop, so on and so forth. I'm like, that could be an interesting dashboard. So I took that concept and I kind of ran with it and just decided to build a dashboard on Tableau Public that just takes exactly what she's done and applies the Tableau lens to it. So what I have here is the dashboard, again, inspired literally from that article I just showed you, where I've taken the actual light rail map and kind of made it interactive. So this is a real light mail wrap. This is a background image that's actually being mapped, in Tableau, where now someone can choose something on the map. And what you're going to see below, we've got two other types of maps. We've got on the right side, this is a custom map box map. And I'm going to kind of describe that in a second, like what you can do with Mapbox and Tableau. And on the left is just Google Street View. So the idea here was, could I build something that combined all three? Where if we click on, let's say, Bland Street, what you're going to see is not only does, the overhead shot and the street view shot update, but also the places to go, the things that she calls out in the article. This was just an example of me just testing out a theory of, could I combine all three? I wanted to build one dashboard that integrated a background image map, a custom Mapbox map, and the Google Street View, and the actual original point of the article all in one dashboard. And this was something that wasn't actually all that difficult to do. So I'm going to kind of give you the 5-minute version of how I did this, because it's actually a little bit easier than you would think. So really, at the end of the day, we're not going to go into great detail, but I will say this is kind of one of these things that there are certain nuances to Tableau that you should be aware of. And if you ever want to do Google, and mind you, this dashboard, it is on my Tableau public. I'm going to put the link literally in the chat right now, just so you can take a look at it. You can download this. You can reverse engineer it, have at it. But like I said, there are some subtle things. I'm really just going to focus on the 3 types of mapping: the image map, the Mapbox map, and the Google Street View. As you can see, Google Street View does not work in Tableau Desktop. That right there is fine. If I publish this right now, it will work on Tableau Public or Tableau Server, but it won't work in Tableau Desktop. The actual Google Map Embed API is something that's only going to register when you actually publish a dashboard. So that's just something to be mindful. If you ever want to do a Google Street View in your Tableau, just make sure you're mindful of that. It's okay that it's broken in desktop. If you publish it to the web, it should work. And obviously you want to test that theory out. But the way I did this, and I'll kind of focus on each of these 3 steps. The Google Street View, I'm kind of starting out of order. This is actually quite simple. It literally is just, at the end of the day, a URL action that's driving that. At the end of the day, it is something as simple as you just got to get the URL for your Google Street View, and then you're just going to swap out, the latitude and longitude with something from your own dashboard. I think this open. Oh, there it is. Okay. So at the end of the day, this is the actual URL here. You're going to see it's a really, really long Google Maps URL, but you can see where I have my latitude and longitude. I think you got to put it in there twice. It's there once, and then later in the URL, you're going to see it's there again. That's all. You can theoretically take this URL and swap out your own latitude and longitude, and that should work for Google Street View, or at least it should work for now. I'm not sure how the API, at some point in the future, this could theoretically not work if Google decides that, they want to stop restricting people from using Google Street View like this. But for the background image map, this was something that I do want to kind of hone in on, because a lot of people ask me all the time about this kind of stuff, and it's not that difficult. There are a million different ways to map an image in Tableau. As you can see here, I've got the light rail image, and if you hover over the stations, they're clickable. So this is how I'm making it so when someone clicks on this map, it'll actually update the Google Street View map or the custom Mapbox map. But how do you even just do this part here? Like I said, there's a million different ways to do this. I'm going to show you the easiest way, because again, I'm a big fan of, if there's an easy way to do something, let's just do it the easiest way. Side note, I'm going to put this link in here as well. Everyone that's built anything on Tableau knows there are a million different links to do a million different things. I'm no different. I have a bookmark. I have all sorts of pages and favorites and things of that nature. I had a whole collection of links of just stuff that comes in handy. At some point, I said, you know what, I'm just going to turn that into a dashboard itself. So every link that I've ever kept, that I ever found valuable, I literally keep in this Tableau public dashboard. And I keep this thing up to date, as best as I can. So it covers a wide variety of topics, as you can see. And one of them actually is the topic around mapping. So if you want to know more about mapping, here are some links about mapping. You want to know how to do custom Mapbox integration, here's some links about that. You want to know how to do the other type of integration, the web, what is it? Yes, web map services, or WMS maps. Here's some links that describe that. I'm showing you this dashboard for now because I want to show you that when it comes to image mapping, again, There's a million different ways you can do it. They probably all work, but at some point in the past, InterWorks developed this tool literally for image mapping in Tableau, and I never looked back. I'm like, this thing is a lifesaver. And why do I say that? I'm going to show you exactly what I mean. Here is the image. This is the actual map itself. I just downloaded it as an image. That's all it is. There's nothing special. I want to show you what I can do with that image in this tool right now. So I'm going to take that image file I just showed you, just going to drag it over here, drop it over here. And now what this will allow me to do is actually plot points on this image so I can map. You can do a variety of things. I'm going to plot points. Right now it's got points selected. I'm just going to select things on the map. I'm going to put something right there. I'm going to put something right there. I'm going to put something right there. And what you're going to see is on the right, every time I click on something, it's literally plotting the X and Y coordinates. This is exactly what I used in my real dashboard, because this is what you need. This is what Tableau can read. Tableau can take this, and you can download this as an Excel, CSV, or crosstab, and just bring it in as a data source. I'm going to show you my dashboard. That's exactly what I did. And this saves so much time. Again, I'm plotting points. You could do more than points. You could do paths. You could do polygons. You want to do a polygon, you could do something like this, where I'm going to create an entire shape. And now that entire box could be mapped in Tableau, where someone could click on this blue box and kind of, get an instant result. But when I say this is what I did literally, I want you to keep your eye here on the right, because I'm going to go back to Tableau and show you the actual data source. I'm going to go here. I'm going to click on edit data source, and I'm going to show you, we've got our, kind of data source here. This is the physical layer. If you know relationships, we're at the top layer. I'm going to double click on this and show you that now we're at the lower layer, which is basically, I've got this thing called shapes, and it's basically an inner join to my blue line stations file. I'm going to show you what those both are. Because at the end of the day, the links blue line station is my underlying data. It's what basically has all of what I'd say is the pertinent information about kind of those light rails. Kind of here are the, the actual notes about which ones had which restaurants. Basically, is the blue line stop. Here's the station name, northbound. I've got all this information about these light rail stations, and I got to figure out a way to map it to that image. Here's the shapes file. This is literally what I just showed you on that last screen. I'm just mapping this to this. And once I do that, it makes creating the map super simple. And like I said, there are things I can literally walk you through how to actually get to this point, but that's all you need from an underlying data source perspective. And again, like I said, all the other ways to map images work. I mean, you can do this manually. Like I said, there's a million different ways, but this is just quick and easy, and it just kind of knocks it out the park, kind of get it over with. So once you get to this point, again, like I said, the Google Street View thing was very, very simple. Custom Mapbox integration. The thing I like about the custom Mapbox is that with the Mapbox integration, and probably even with the WMS integration, this lets you take maps a little bit further than the default maps in Tableau. Like if we go up here to map, you're going to see it in background maps. I've got something called zoomed in map, because this is something that I did in Mapbox. If I go to manage maps, you're going to see that this was a custom map that I got from Mapbox. I actually created it. And what I did in Mapbox is I created a map that literally would allow me to zoom in a way that I couldn't really do on some of the default maps in Tableau. Like if you look at this particular map here, this is Uptown Charlotte. This is literally the Spectrum Center over here. If I start moving this around, you're going to see Bank of America Stadium over here. So like I said, this is a level of detail that you theoretically would not have got, with some of the basic maps out of Tableau. There's so much you can do with Mapbox integration. I can't even begin to get into that. I mean, it's really, really powerful what you can do. It's just, there's a lot of there's just a lot you can do, and it's kind of like I couldn't explain that in 5 minutes, even if I wanted to. But I just wanted to show you real quick the custom Mapbox, the Google Street View, and the background image map allow you to create something like, what I showed you basically in my Tableau dashboard. And it is something that you could do too. So again, like I said, feel free to download this. It's on my Tableau public page. I'll actually, I put the link to, I think I put the link to this dashboard. I'm going to put the link to the other one. The other one is just a good dashboard to have in general, because again, it's like everything that I kind of know how to do, but sometimes forget, and it's kind of like, it's just, again, I can't take any credit. These are all links and articles and blogs that I found from everybody, from Zen masters to people who work at Tableau, to it's just a combination of everything I've ever found value in. I can't tell you enough. I still rely on this thing, bookmark this thing. give credit to some of these people who have done some of these articles and some of these blog posts, because it's really, really good stuff. But with that, I think I'm close to being at time. I want to thank you again for your time. We're going to pass it off to the next person, and you guys enjoy your day. Thanks. Dare, I think you're on mute if you're talking.
I think it's Jeremy's turn.
No, this is back
Oh,
on me.
okay.
I have the great. I was fumbling with my my buttons because I didn't see your ending coming there.
Sorry.
No, you're good. No, I have the great privilege, fortunately, to introduce Christopher Scott today. So Christopher, obviously, he represents our Raleigh-Durham Tug. I think everybody, whether you're part of one of these three Carolinas regions or not, have probably seen his face at some point. He's also a Tableau ambassador, in addition to his Tableau user group leadership. So big in the Tableau community. We're glad to have him as one of our own. Enjoyed getting to know him the past couple of years through the Tableau community. By day, he's a data analytics manager at Enact Mortgage in Raleigh. By night, he lives in Apex with his wife, their 4 kids, and a golden doodle. And today, he's going to tell you a little bit more about where to eat in Raleigh, North Carolina. So throw it at us, Christopher.
All right. Thanks, Jeremy. Thank you for the introduction. And it has also been a pleasure getting to know you and the rest of this group. Yeah, it's just, I think this started as kind of a pipe dream a few years ago, and now it's an annual thing. So I would never miss it. I've enjoyed partnering with this group, and I love our Carolina Tableau user groups. I have been, as Jeremy said, I've been active in both helping to get started and keep alive a lot of our Tableau user groups here in North Carolina. And again, I was pandering earlier, Jeremy. I really want some Wilmington representation. So if you are in Wilmington or know somebody that's in Wilmington that would be willing to even whatever resources you would need, we could provide for you. But I would love to get a Wilmington Tableau user group started up so we could cover the entire state, east to west. But yeah, so I'm so excited to talk today. So obviously, everybody's talking about where kind of where they're looking at. We got another few presentations after mine to talk about the good things, and I started with that concept. So maybe about 2 months ago when we started this. Kind of the hands went up. I volunteered. I was like, yeah, it's like I'm a big foodie. I love all the restaurants in Raleigh. I am a big craft beer fan. Trophy is my absolute favorite. And I love all things good food, good beer, good drinks, you name it. And Raleigh, sorry, Charlotte, but I think Raleigh has as you beat, and I'm going to go through that. But a few weeks ago, as I've spent the past couple months trying to get some data and think about, okay, I can use Yelp. So I actually started a project at work with some of our interns, and I was like, let's go grab some Yelp data. And so we grabbed JSONs, and it's all the sample data. And I'm like, well, there's nothing in Raleigh except one North Carolina restaurant. It's an IHOP in Boone. And I was like, that's not helpful. So instead of going to Yelp and trying to scrape, just millions of rows of data from Yelp and do all of that, I said, okay, there's got to be something else. So what can I do? And sure enough, my son, so this is him in the upper left corner. He is kind of our wild card. This is Bennett. We were at Wendy's, I think, of all places, and he's looking in the window and sees a sanitation rating. Now, this is the first image I could find on Google that was really clean. It's not Rhodey's Tavern. I don't even know where that is. But he looks in and says, Dad, what makes a good sanitation rating? And I'm thinking, I don't really know. I just know that A is really good. 100 is the best you can get. I think you can get a little bit bonus points. So, but I said, essentially, once you get under an A, it's kind of a slippery slope. And so we had this long conversation in the car on the way home from Wendy's about sanitation ratings. And I'm going, Bennett, you just blew my mind. I have my topic for our Carolinas virtual tug. We're going to talk about not necessarily where to eat in Raleigh. We are going to talk about where not to eat in Raleigh. So if you enjoy these restaurants, and I will give you a little bit of a sneak peek, one of my favorite restaurants is in the bottom. And so these numbers do change quite often. So if you are concerned about these numbers, this is all public data. It's all out. We'll talk about where I got the data from, but essentially, yeah, just know the next time you come to Raleigh, or this is actually all of Wake County. If you come to Wake County, you might want to avoid these restaurants. And then at the end of the presentation, I will give you all the places, the top 25 to eat. And spoiler alert, none of them has below a 90. So they're all A ratings. So, so good news there. So let's talk about, I more want to talk about less about the Tableau dashboard and more about the process, the data, how I got this, what does it mean? So obviously the first thing that I go and look for is Wake County restaurant sanitation ratings. So as again, I see the sign, I'm going, okay, where can I find this? And you'll see here on the bottom left of my screen, I went right here and I said, okay, here's our sanitation ratings. And actually AOL of all places had this nice kind of top, I guess it was like top 70 restaurant ratings, and they were all good. But I'm like, where's the rest of this data? So it led me to this restaurant inspection grades website. And here you can search, as you see here. These are really difficult in Tableau to kind of scroll through, but you can search by name. There's different types. You can search for score ranges. This is great data. I could not, but there's no way to actually get it off of this screen. And then as I looked at the AOL website, I'm going, oh no, they had somebody literally pluck these one by one off of the website, input it in some Excel spreadsheet, and then put it on this website. And I'm going, I don't have the time for that. And there's so many restaurants in Raleigh. I think the total number here was something like 5,000 restaurants. So I'm going, I don't have time to pluck every single one. I started talking with some of my colleagues about web scraping and Python, and it's way too much. So immediately, this is my, I don't have points like William did, but lesson number one that I learned from this, as you're researching data, as you're researching anything, any data, go to the source. So immediately on here, I see contact us. I click the little button, found the contact for there, put in an email, and immediately, like the same day, I get a response back. And they were amazing. They're like, nobody ever wants our data. It's like, I want it. I want to showcase this data. It's all public. Like, there's no qualms about it, right? So I'm talking to this person, and she's just giving me everything I want. She's like, okay, you want this and you want this. Oh, let me see if I can scrape this. And sure enough, within less than a week, she had her team pull this entire swath of data for me, which was fantastic. I had everything I wanted. The name of the restaurant, the address, I had the grade, the risk score, all of these things. I'm like, this is fantastic. Well, today seems to be a lesson on mapping. So we're talking about mapping. So the first thing I did, I drug everything into Tableau, but I've been using Tableau since 2012. So I'm probably up there with amongst all the people on this call of Tableau veterans here. I knew for a fact that you can't put address in Tableau and get the street points. You have to have lat lon, you have to have city, state, zip code, all of those pieces. So I did what I've done in the past. I've done kind of a reverse, go to Geocodia. Well, I've got 5,000 records. So I'm just going through the steps, all of my motions, right? So I'm reaching the limits of what I can do. Well, I hit a brick wall, and I'm going, okay, I got to figure out a way around this. And again, this was a few weeks ago. So I go and I'm like, okay, is there anywhere that has just the restaurant data, like not the scores, not anything, but where's the restaurant and where are they located? Sure enough, the town of Cary had put together a data website for all the restaurants in Wake County with the address, the state, the city, the facility type, and lo and behold, I didn't have to reverse geocode anything. They put the lat and lon on there for me. So I said, score. I've got everything I need. In Tableau, I actually use Tableau Prep. had a few filters I wanted to add. So I just used Tableau Prep. I joined the data sources on restaurant name, which I know is not the best and the easiest, which is why you'll see here when I show you the dashboard, I only have about 3,500 restaurants, whereas I've got about 5,000 data sources, and we'll talk about 5,000 facilities from the Wake County website. So I'm going back and forth. I've got all my data, and I'm going, okay, now I've got, again, thinking through our model, thinking through it, how we visualize data, right? I'm going through and I'm going, okay, I've got what I want to talk about. I want to talk about where not to eat. So I'm thinking low sanitation grades. I want to plot it on a map. I want to look at all of these things. So what did I do? I took the Latin lawns and I plotted them on a map. And we're okay, there's some good data here. But I ultimately, I wanted to make this useful, not just for myself, not just for my fellow tug leaders here, but for all of you as well. So the next time, again, you're in Wake County, you're in Raleigh, you're in come to Apex, right? And come and have a good meal. Okay, I want to make this shareable. Again, all the data is public. It's out on the Wake County website, but it's never been in a, I mean, at least to my knowledge, from my research, it's never been in a searchable format like this. So you can find, again, you can find your favorite if you want to, you want to look at, okay, I know food trucks are a big thing, especially here in Wake County. I'm sure they're really big in Charlotte too. I just want to click on the food trucks, the mobile food units. Now I can see, again, food trucks actually have a really good, their latest scores are 90.5 to 100. So I can look at some of the lower rated ones that are 93s. Looks like lobster dogs. If you're in Raleigh, you're really hurting for lobster. I'm gonna 90.5. It's probably on the lower end. So just advise you to maybe try to find another lobster food truck. But also what I noticed was that as you build out the size of your, so I use the score to not only do the color, but also the size, because I was having trouble finding the lows in my data set. And so as I was building some other visualizations, I said, okay, I need to do an inverse. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to take the high scores and I wanted to make them smaller bubbles. And then I wanted to again, bubble out, showcase where the low scores were, or the bad scores. So as you can see here, as we've done the bad, so I've just done an inverse here, a parameter, I can see where the bad ones are. Now, if you want to come to this and you say, I really only want to focus on the top, the 100s, those high scores, you can swap it here yourself. And then you can see, here's my 98s, my 96s, my 98s, 95s. So it really helps you to see, okay, I've got more options here. But again, the purpose here is to tell you kind of where to steer clear. So as we're also talking about Tableau, I wanted to bring in some more functionality. Now, to be fair, I've really got to learn more about the dynamic zone visibility, but I just use the new functionality of being able to show and hide a different worksheet. And so I actually took each of these, the bottom 5, and I took and created and grabbed the actual inspection score, and then put a little character here and clicked, and voila, you can see the full inspection score, what they were dinged on, and what they were and what they did right. So again, and just clicking X. So I created those. So you can see the bottom 5 there. But again, all the purpose here was, we talk a lot about there's the top restaurants and all of these things. And I say, that's great, but that's all subjective. There's a lot of good qualities. There's restaurant reviews, there's critics, there's all of these things. There's word of mouth. I mean, that's probably my number one go-to when I think about eating at a restaurant. But at the end of the day, we're all about Tableau. We're all about data. I need something objective to tell me if a restaurant, some kind of standard to determine if a restaurant is good or if it's bad. So I'm going to use my personal, again, I gave you your little spoiler alert at the beginning, a little personal anecdote, little story here. La Rancherita, it is one of my favorite restaurants. I had no idea that as of, again, the 1/17, so again, about a week ago, they got this score. Now you can look into the data and you can see there's multiple scores. You can see the testing over time. But I mean, maybe we won't go back to that restaurant now until their score comes up. So I'm going to keep an eye on this and track it. But this is just a great resource and way for you to know right off the bat, like, hey, we're really interested to go to this new restaurant or something, and really to use that objective piece of data in the sanitation score and determine. And maybe, hey, maybe you're split, right? You're moving to Wake County. You want to put your kids in a private school, and you're right neck and neck with the two, right? Well, this dashboard can also help you to say, okay, if I know I want to send them to these two different private schools, maybe the one determining factor is their sanitation grade for their school lunchroom. And so if I'm thinking of this school here in North Raleigh, they've got a 94.5, but Cary Academy has a 98.5. So again, these factors are just these objective things that can really help you to make better informed decisions. Now, I know my time is up, so I wanted to leave you with this. Raleigh Magazine put this out at the end of last year. We talked about where not to eat. We're going to end with where to eat. So I've eaten at probably about half of these restaurants, and I can personally swear to all of them by word of mouth, by restaurant ratings. And then as you see, the final determining factor, if all of these are in your Raleigh bucket list for you to come and eat at, start at the top, start at the highest sanitation grade and make your way down. But as you'll see here, even with a 90, still an A grade. And again, these are measured every couple weeks even. So they often get better. It's really kind of a shot in the dark, but all of these great restaurants, I highly recommend them. So if you're in Raleigh, call me up. Let's go grab something to eat and pick any one of these restaurants, and I'll be happy to go with you. So that's it for me. And thank you so much for having me today.
Awesome. Thank you. I live in Raleigh, and sad to see Y Hill so low. I love Y Hill, but there's some other good ones in there. So I'm glad, they're not all
still in the top 25.
Yeah,
So,
I know. I want to know what is lower, because there's restaurants I don't see at all on the list, and I wonder. But this is very great presentation. Thank you.
It'll be all on Tableau Public after this meeting. So
great. Thanks.
Thanks, dear.
Yeah. All right. So next we have Ginny Minch. She is an enrollment management business intelligence analyst at App State University. Go Mountaineers. Ginny's background is in anthropology, and she has been using Tableau since 2012. She co-founded Analytics Day, which is a one-day mini conference for higher ed Tableau users. That was in 2018, and she co-leads the High Country Tug and the Higher Education Tug. Ginny will be talking to us about the hidden gems of Wilkesboro.
Thank you, Dare. Let me just switch up my screen here. Okay. So I'm sure you've noticed today that all the presentations have been about the many wonderful places and things that North Carolina has to offer. And my dashboard is going to showcase the hidden gems of Wilkesboro, North Carolina. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't give a huge thank you to Thomas Sally, the Director of Tourism for Wilkesboro, and Ashton English, the Tourism Data Specialist for the state of North Carolina, for all their help with this project. So for anyone who's unfamiliar, Wilkesboro is a small town in the foothills of North Carolina. It's not quite halfway between Winston-Salem and Boone on Highway 421. It was established in 1847 and has a very rich history. If you've ever heard of Tom Dooley, well, yeah, he was held in jail here. So it's the home of Kerscott Lake, the North Wilkesboro Speedway, and Merle Fest, which is a small music festival. You may have heard of it. So whether you're an outdoor enthusiast, a history buff, a wine aficionado, or a music lover, there is something here for everyone. So I lived in Wilkesboro for the first 8 years of my life, and it was only when I came back as an adult that I realized just how very much it has changed and how much there is to do. So that was the inspiration behind this dashboard. So I wanted to have the look and feel of like a glossy brochure that you pick up at the visitor center on your first trip into town. And I've been experimenting some with this, more modern looking backgrounds on the dashboards with the, the beveled images and the shadows. And I will say I'm not a visual designer. This is not my forte, but I enjoy playing around with it. So lots to learn there. Anywho, so I wanted to start off with a checklist. You go down the checklist, you find something you're interested in. You can hover over each check mark to see what's available. And then you can click on it to see it highlighted on the map and displayed in the picture, just to help you figure out what to do when you're in town. So let's say you're into boating. I'm into boating. We have a boat. Might want to go out on Curscott Lake. We could see there are boat ramps at Bandits Roost, Curscott Lake, Smitty's Creek Park. And if I click on that, we can see it highlighted on the map here. If I click on that, it not only shows the picture down here, but it also highlights the check marks on the checklist. So I can see not only does Smitty's Creek Park have a boat ramp, they also offer fishing access. So that is one way that this is sort of an interactive dashboard for people to be able to find stuff to do. In addition to boating, I am a big fan of like mead and wine and beer tasting. So I see here's a meadery and winery, Stardust Cellars Tap Room. So I'm going to check on that. Here it is, right off of 421. That's really pretty. I actually have been to the tap room. It's a lot of fun. They have flights, they have beer, wine, and mead. They have live music. They have a crepe restaurant right next door. So lots of fun stuff to do there. So if I click on that, I can see not only do they have a meadery and winery and do tastings, they also have a dog park. And I have a little dog, so that was kind of perfect. What else is there to do? Well, the museum is something that my aunt has been talking up to me for years because she volunteers there. So I can see the Wilkes Heritage Museum. Click on it. They have special events, they have live music, they have shopping, and they give tours, especially the ghost tours, which my aunt happens to lead. They get sold out all the time. I've yet to go on one, but maybe one day. And if you do notice, there is this little purple diamond way out, a little bit away from everything else, and that is the Speedway. So if you're familiar at all with NASCAR, you might have heard that the North Wilkesboro Speedway, it closed down years ago. I remember it when I was a kid. I remember driving down 421, getting caught in that traffic, and it was a bit of a headache when you were heading home. But in recent years, I think within the last year or two, they have revamped the Speedway so that it can open again for special events. So lots of, Jeremy wants to know where to find moonshine. Well, if we want to find moonshine, we just have to go up here to distillery. There's the Call family distillers right here. And then across town, there's the Copper Barrel Distillery here. So yes, something for everyone. And I do believe they have special events and lots of different tastings available there as well. So the interactions on this dashboard, they're accomplished by a couple of different dashboard actions, specifically highlighting and changing set values. And then this image is actually updated using the new Tableau feature called the image URL. And I do want to show you how that works because it's so easy. So first we need to look at the data, understand what that looks like. We have our list of locations, and we also have a list of image URLs. Now, there are some important things to note when you're picking out the URLs for your images. First of all, they all have to be either a .jpg or a .png, and they have to, the image URL has to end in that suffix or a .jpeg. And it also has to be 128 kilobyte size limit, and it has to be publicly available. Now, I got all these from the same website. And that made it pretty easy. They're all uniform in size. They all meet the specifications required, but you may not be so lucky. And if you're not, I'm going to share a couple of blogs and vlogs later where you can find out, how to kind of how to clean up those URLs and get them to work better for you. So if you see over in our data screen, we have our image URL. That's just what I named it. And it is designated as a string. Now, in order for this to actually work as a link to your image, you'll need to click on the field and go down to image role and change it to a URL. Alternately, you can click on the ABC, go to image role and change that to a URL. All right, so I've done that. And you'll see that the icon next to that field name has changed. However, you'll also notice nothing happened in my worksheet. And that's because I have the image URL on the text mark box. It does not work on the text mark box or any mark box as far as I know, except maybe the tooltip. However, you can put it in the rows, and that is when your image comes into play. Now you'll notice they're all quite small. You can manually resize those just by dragging your rows and columns around a bit. As I mentioned before, that all of my images are uniform in size, and there are some blogs and blogs out there to help if yours are not. I'm going to put those in the chat so you can access them. All right, so if you think back to the dashboard, you'll recall that I only have one image showing at a time. And I did this using set actions. And in order to set this up, you have to create a set. It's really easy. You click on location, right click, go down to create, and select set. And because I only want one option showing at a time, I'm only going to select one box from this list and say okay. And then I'm going to right click and drag my location set into filters. And the reason I'm doing this is because when I right click, it gives me the choice. Do I want to filter all values, or do I want to filter using a Boolean in or out? And in this case, I want in or out. And I only want to keep locations that are in my set. So that limits us down to 1. And now if I click on location set again, right click, I can choose to show the set. And in doing so, I can then treat it like a filter. I can change it to a single value list. I can customize it to not show the all value. You can do a lot of things with it. And you're probably thinking, if it's so much like a filter, then why not just build it with a filter instead of a set? And in this case, with this particular dashboard, you could. Everything that I do with the set, you could do with the filter. However, I like sets better. It's just a personal preference. They are more powerful and versatile than filters and can be used in calculations and parameters. All right, so now that we know how to change the image using a set, we'll go back to the dashboard and we will set up some set actions. And I just wanted to show you how to do this in the dashboard, because if you do them on the worksheet and then you add that sheet to the dashboard and then you wonder why it doesn't work, it's because you have to set the set actions on the dashboard as well. And that confused me for the longest time. So to do that, you just go to dashboard, go to actions, and then you'll see we have quite a few already set up. We have 3 highlight actions and 1 set action. So if I go to edit, we can see that the set action uses the source sheets of checklist and map. It runs on a select for a single select only, that one picture again, and then it targets the location set. Running the action will assign the value to the set, and clearing the selection will keep the value in the set. And the reason I chose to do that was because I didn't want the picture to go blank. I just wanted to keep the most recent selection in the frame. All right. And so I'm just going to quickly look at the different highlight actions, because these are kind of important for that user interaction. We have the highlight checklist selection. So that is where when we click on the checklist, it highlights the checklist. And I have limited this to just a select field, and that would be the check mark. And then we highlight the location on the map. So we use our checklist and we highlight our map. And again, only a selected field, and that would be location. And finally, we're going to highlight the checklist using the map. And this is a part that I added last, and it was only after going through some user testing myself that I realized I want to click on the map and I want to see all the things that that site has to offer, not just the one that I'm interested in, because that might really influence my decision. So when we select on our map, it highlights the checklist. And in this case, we're highlighting all fields. All right, and that is how we put the dashboard together. The only last piece I want to talk about is the transparent shape. So in this Polaroid picture, I like to call it, is actually a custom image that I created in PowerPoint, and it has a transparent center so that I could put this frame over the picture worksheet in order to create that Polaroid effect. And I'm going to put another link in the chat, and that is to the Blair Litch Twins blog, where I learned all these different use cases for transparent shapes, lots of fun things you can do. And last, I will put in a link to my Viz, which is on Tableau Public, and you can go play around with it. And hopefully, if you haven't already, it will influence you to come and visit Wilkesboro, North Carolina. And I know my time is up, but I wanted to answer Alicia's question. How many hours did it take to put each of these presentations together? I can only speak for mine. Everybody else can put theirs in the chat if you want. I kind of lost track of how long it took because I did all of the custom geo locations like one at a time and built out the data set on my own. But yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody. And I'll turn it back over to our MCs.
All right, thanks so much for that. That was super cool. Love getting to know a little bit more about the small town life up there, especially since I'm looking in the area. So this is very helpful. Awesome. So I'm gonna pass it over to Darrell. So Darrell Pate is another representative of our Charlotte user group here. Really pleased. He's been a co-lead with us for, gosh, it's been almost 3 years now, Darrell, or is it 2? I can never remember because we've expanded our team so much and have had a great help come on. Darrell is an analytics manager with Wells Fargo here in Charlotte. It's been an absolute pleasure having him join our team. And I'm actually very interested in his presentation as well, because I really love speakeasies and I'm here in Charlotte. So inform me, Darrell.
All right, thanks for that introduction, Jeremy. As I'm loading this up, we saw a lot of great presentations today. And one of the things I always like to keep in mind is people are kind of new to the tool. So what I'll be showing today is using the basic functionality of Tableau to share something like myself and Jeremy have in common, the love of speakeasies. Charlotte is a very crowded place, and it's nice to get a little bit of time to just be able to have a conversation. And speakeasies is one of those perfect things. It's a little bit hidden, a little bit secluded. So after reading this article, Charlotte's got a lot. Grammatically, it's grammatically questionable, but location relevant. It was able to give me some of the speakeasies that we have here in Charlotte. And this is just a URL action that we currently have. And then based off of where they're located, what the name of the bar is, what is the quote unquote front or the restaurant that they're a part of. I wanted to create a visual where we could see where these are located. And based off of that, I'm just going to click on one. So Supperland is a really popular restaurant here in Charlotte, and they recently opened a speakeasy. As we can see from the tooltip that we have here, this is a reservation. We can see the address, and if we click on this icon that we have here, we're able to create our reservation directly within Tableau. One of the great things about Tableau makes it really flexible to be able to merge with other created content like this news story, We've seen image URL actions earlier, as well as Rashid's information around the light rail. So with this kind of location-based or spatial-based reporting, I can also zoom in on the two speakeasies that we have uptown, and we can see close to the CTC or Charlotte Transportation Center. There are two speakeasies uptown that you can easily visit. The Duckworth, the cellar at Duckworth, I've heard is really good, requires a reservation, as well as the Cotton Room, which is in Lotta Arcade. And in clicking on both of these, you'll be able to go to the website and see, if you can create a reservation or see the password for that day. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Jeremy.
Awesome. No, thank you for that. Yeah, I've been to a number of these. It's wonderful. Backstage lounge is a lot of fun. Cellar of Ducks, like was mentioned here, has tremendous steaks. We're members at ... room 1812, it's right across from where I'm sitting now. Yeah, it's a RIP to that one. No, it's awesome. Thanks everybody for taking us on a tour of North Carolina today. It's been pretty cool to see a bunch of different perspectives, a bunch of different passion projects, and most importantly, a lot of really cool use cases for Tableau. So thanks everybody for the contributions. Couple quick notes as we look to close out. On your screen here today, we've got a number of data sources that were either mentioned or referred to today during the presentation. So take advantage of some of these links. It looks like they've just been added to the chat over here so that you can actually grab them and copy paste. Really appreciate everybody joining today from near and far. If you're not local, or if you are local, come see us at your local user group. We'll all be looking to put meetings and meetups on the calendar for the next couple of months. If you're not local, find a Tableau user group that's local to you and continue to attend with us virtually. We love having you. Southern hospitality for you. But find a group in your local community that you can connect with. And like Christopher mentions, if your community doesn't have one, start one, right? There's no better person than you. So we've loved having everybody again. It's been great to get to do this for another year. I think we certainly, based on the interest we had this year, would love to do it again next year. So be on the lookout. Enjoy your local user groups, connect with them, connect with us, reach out, anything you need. Happy Tableauing, everyone.